Okay, it is the 6th of June, 2024. This is Gimbalabs Open Spaces, where we get together on Thursdays at 1400 UTC to talk about stuff, to build stuff, and most of all, to build an agenda from scratch every time we get together. The way we build that agenda is with a Miro board that looks like this. And if you're here, you can find it in the chat. And the way we start each of these sessions is before we go live, we have a chance to informally check in, just to connect and hear how each other are doing. And then the first thing we do once we are live streaming is set a timer for 2 minutes, where everybody can have a chance to jump into this board right here. You can see I'm in a frame that has today's date. Zooming out, where are we on the screen? We're kind of in the center towards the top. And you can find where everybody's navigating around right here. I'll press play in just a minute to start the timer. And while the timer is going, everybody just has a chance to take a sticky note and write a note or two about what you hope to talk about today. After that, we'll all have a chance to share out on what sticky notes we added, and we'll arrange them into an agenda for the day, possibly covering some high-level things in the main room, and then jump into breakout rooms related to various circles that we've established so far in 2024. Does anybody have any questions about what's about to happen? All right. I'm going to mute and press play on the timer. If you have access to Miro, feel free to jump in. If you're not able to access Miro, just write a note in the chat or unmute, and we'll get your notes onto the board right here. Enjoy this moment and see you in 2. Realized I needed slightly more than 2 minutes there to finish a couple notes. If you're still adding stickies here, feel free to keep going, and we can keep addressing them as we move across. But usually we start by going from left to right and just hearing what people want to talk about or work on. So I'm going to zoom in here on the left side. And the first one I see is thinking about the 25K for stablecoin research. Anybody want to say a word about that?
That was mine. I was just it was some information going around on Twitter. People were kind of, debating whether it was a good idea, bad idea, what's the benefit, so forth. It's one of the hot topics right now in our community. And so it's just been on my mind every once in a while. I don't have a strong opinion of it, but I was just curious if anybody had a strong opinion about it.
Who's putting up 25K ADA?
Intersect.
I
So
see.
there was a grant for it that was provided.
And Jonah, is this one you as well?
Yes, and the one to the right is also mine.
Cool. So this is a kind of like nice high level thing to look at. These might be nice technical deep dives.
Mhm.
I threw this one up here. I know Alex and Newman gave me addresses. And Alex, we talked about just having a basic alias, some kind of, not related to a name. And sorry, I just haven't been near my node, so I haven't been able to mint that, but I would like to do that today. And I want to check in with Newman about what token name to use, whether it can be something generic or specific. So that could be a quick thing we do. And for anybody who wants to just see how that's working, we can do a quick review of Notion, which has the first three modules of PPBL in it so far, 100, 101, and 102. Once we're caught up on that, we can update the rest. So we can move to that, maybe here in the main room, maybe in a breakout. I see one here that says tracing Andamio data on chain.
Yeah, that was me. I'll be working on. So Andamio has some validators, and we put records on chain, and that's how we try to build a network. So there's going to be data, but yeah, we're going to. I'm going to try to trace those data and decode and build a simple API over those things so that we can fetch the data really easy, whatever we want.
Nice. I just opened up a list of breakout rooms. I'll add that one right away. Andamio on-chain data. That's great. Up here, yeah, I added several things. Just PPBL is the Gimbalabs initiative that I'm spending most time on right now. And so if there's time in a breakout room for education, would love just to go through what finishing touches need to be put on the last two modules. There's a video, and this could be an opportunity if somebody wants to record their first video. This could be a really fun one. I'm happy to take it, but I can propose that to anybody who wants to hear about it. And then there's a lesson introducing Gimbalabs at the end of module 103 that I could use some help thinking about what exactly we want to say to new students of PPBL right there. And this might connect to also just ideas about getting the word out about the course, which a few people mentioned before our meeting started. And there's some loose ends to tie up. So this could just be a working session. And then if we got through all of that, which I don't know if we'll have time, but if there is time, then we could also look at the learning targets for the next few modules that will roll out over the next few weeks. And up here, next to the community onboarding circle, I see a couple of stickies.
Yep, that's me. Let's see. So I think maybe Alex mentioned new students and the PBL. I'm curious to get an update on what's going on at live coding on Wednesday. Are there new students arriving? I know we're in sort of a soft launch, and as we build out, and then thinking of like where to market and network or try to find new students. One of the things top of my brain right now is working on marketing and getting Twitter campaigns together. I'm using a tool called Buffer, which allows you to kind of a suite of tools for social media campaigns. And GPT, so fun to interact with the AI, like to build, it's a lot of fun. And then with the idea of awareness and attracting new students, the right new students that can get the most benefit. And I was thought, like where in general, like we might find them, and then or be available so they might find us. And then I thought about the other, because Project Catalyst is one, but then also the other funding, innovation fund that's going around is the SNet and the deep funding. And if people here that are involved there, if they've got proposals, if they, know a spot where the developers are hanging out. Yeah, so that I wouldn't mind chatting about that either in the main room or in the breakout.
That's awesome. Alex, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important and a good idea to maybe just step back a little bit from the course building and first think about a little bit of a user persona or like learner profile and who is the student, and to think about and this like this will be hopefully a step towards being able to talk about where to publicize the course. Recently, I was involved elsewhere in some product building activities, and in particular, like the thing called user journey, which felt pretty interesting. And yeah, so maybe we could dive into that.
Jonah, what
Yeah,
do
I
you
like
think?
that.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw in there too that you guys should, and if you're not, you should think about putting your voice into the Intersect marketing working group, because I think having attention on projects like yours is important for marketing of the entire chain. One of the things I think that you guys have the ability to do is to reach outside of the Cardano ecosystem and pull developers in from outside, because you provide a really kind of direct user-friendly path into the Cardano development cycle. And I think that's maybe something you guys might want to think looking about, is like, reaching out to Solana folks and Ethereum folks in those communities, maybe Farcaster, and trying to pull people in outside of Cardano even.
That's a really good idea. And I think, so this could either, like Newman said, this could either be a breakout room or this could be a fabulous topic for the main room today. And let's decide that for just a moment. But a couple of thoughts on this. I think one approach is absolutely, like Alex said, to slow down or pause on course development and to use the extra time from slowing down on that to dedicate some time to marketing the course. A different way to think about it might be to think about what can different people contribute. It's hard to focus on both building a great course and marketing it at the same time. And in an organization with different people with different skill sets, often it's not by everybody focusing on just one of those things at a time. It's by splitting up the work, for example, into circles like we have right here, right? Where some people really can focus on building a course and other people can focus on making sure that the world knows about it. And speaking from a personal perspective, I don't have great talent for marketing, right? I'm following my ikigai, for those of us who have used that term, if I'm working over here. But I have no objections to people coming up with ideas for how we do this part over here. And what an exciting way to build an organization by each following our journeys into these specific circles, right? And starting to source some ideas and impact that way. At this moment, Sebastian and I are able to tweet from Gimbalabs, but personally, I would have no objections towards sharing access to that with anybody. So that's something that's always a lever that we can pull. So yeah, just wanted to think about this as an opportunity maybe to really start fleshing out more circles and for people to step into focused work on the things that they're most lit up by. And the last thing I'll say is, remember, this is always seasonal, right? In this season of my life, in this season of your life, you might spend a lot of time in one particular circle. And 3 months from now, that might change. You might say, all right, well, I just spent a chapter in the education circle. I just spent a season in the community onboarding circle. I'm ready to see a different one. that's beautiful too, right? But we have this opportunity to give people the chance, to give each other the chance to focus on one thing at a time. And I think that's a growth area for us as kind of an emerging organization here. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, I like John's suggestion about involving intersect, and maybe I look at what the marketing group doing, what they're doing, and see how we could use them or cooperate with them for promotion.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and that's great. So, and if you can bring back the opportunities and what you propose, or even a draft of a proposal for how we interact with those opportunities, that'll give everybody else a chance to see what resonates with them and how they can jump in.
Yeah, it partially, I mean, it just reminded me that, there is money in Intersect. That 25K went to stablecoin research. So there is money available. There might even be something there for, something like PBL, if asked properly.
Yeah, it's really cool. Cool. So there's a bunch of different things we could do today. So there's one breakout room for Andamio on-chain data. I can make another one, but we might combine technical rooms, but let's say Next.js and T3 experiments.
Yeah, that's my personal path right now. We certainly don't have to work on it like we did last week. I totally understand. That's just where my head space is right now.
All good, all good. Well, that's the beauty of we create breakout rooms, and then if people jump in, they do. And then I'm going to make a breakout room for community onboarding and marketing, even though that might be what stays here in the main room. So if I open these rooms now, people will be able to opt into those. Okay, yeah, they are all open. Before we decide what stays here, would it be okay if we just do a quick look at the prototype and see the status of this, just so people know this is here?
I would love to do that.
Okay, let's do a quick look over there. While I'm pulling that up on the screen share, Newman, I have an address from you. Is it okay if I give you a generic token name that's just like PPBL contributor number N?
Yes, that'd be fine. It does come with a 2024 on it, doesn't it?
It doesn't have to.
Okay. It would be good because I think I have one that says 2023. So I've got a couple. So let's, just if we could somehow serialize them so that I know which one's which.
That's great. Now, Alex, how does that sound to you if we say PPBL 2024 contributor number? If that's the name of the token, you guys okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
That'd be perfect.
I'm just checking back the address that I sent to you before.
And send me one if you guys want to double confirm and just send in Discord a mainnet address that you can access from a browser wallet, preferably Eternal, just so you can learn about what the transactions look like.
I only have Eternal on mobile. It's okay?
I haven't tested the platform with Eternal Mobile. That could be interesting to try. But I can't speak for whether it'll work.
Okay, so far it worked the same. I don't have don't have mainnet address on my browser, only in my
But
wallet.
yeah, let's try it. Let's try it. The worst that would happen is it doesn't work, and we therefore have to figure out an alternative, but I think it's worth trying. Give me one second.
Okay, I'm sending something in Discord.
Thanks. Sorry, I just can't on this browser. You know what? Hold on. Let me switch screens over here. Even easier. Well, no, that's not easier. Sorry, I'm just getting back in the swing of things. All right, let me do this. I have to switch screens. Sorry about that. While I'm getting this set up over here, let's look at Notion first.
I also saw that Jingles posted Mesh has done a few, like 4 or 5 more design patterns they added, which is really exciting.
That's going to be a huge advantage in the upcoming module. The next module that needs to be written is about mesh, and I think we're going to be able to use some of those new examples directly in the course.
Oh, sweet.
Here is in Notion the PPBL 2024 project, and there's a board down here where we've been keeping track of lesson status.
Oh man, I hate seeing my name as well. It seems like, oh, Harsha, you're one farther up ahead of me. So I feel okay about that now. I feel a lot better now. I'm in the same boat with Harsha. How can we move from in progress to done?
So when a lesson is done, yeah, and these ones, for example, we know 101 is done and we've gotten approval. So you would click on the status column and just change it to done.
Oh no.
Boom. Right. So
Okay.
we know 100 and 101 are done. Those high confidence level there. 102, the writing is done. So let's mark these. But I'm not sure about final like editor approval of each of these. Well, I guess I was the editor for some of those, so I can speak to those. But anybody who's marked as an editor, so that would be Harsha, Alex, and me, we can just give Sebastian the final go-ahead that lessons 102.1 through 102.5 look complete. Okay. And then 103 is in progress. 103 is not started. 103.1 and 103.2 have been drafted, and we can do a final check on those. Alex and I were kind of both serving as writer and editor roles here, so we'll talk in just a minute about how to split those up. But that's that. Now, the other representation of these tasks is in the contributor platform prototype that's connected on chain. And I just have to switch over to a computer where I have a browser wallet loaded for this. Okay. All right, thanks for your patience there. So this is the prototype that people have seen. If it's new to you, it's public at gimbalabs-prototype.andamio.io. And I can drop this link in the chat.
Ooh.
And what we see here, this is functional but incomplete. There's some features that have not been built here yet. And eventually this will be integrated into the Andamio platform that's already serving the Plutus PBL 2024 content. These are integrated really nicely, but we're just making slow progress on the UI as we make sure that everything's done. What you'll see here is that depending on your role, you'll be able to see different content. So if I connect this wallet, I'll be able to see a list of projects to which I could commit, but I won't, for example, be able to see the admin dashboard or the reviewer dashboard. Okay. In the contributor view, you can see that PPBL 2024 writing and editing tasks are available for lesson 100.2. Let's check Notion, where that was Alex edited that and Chris. So Alex, for example, would be able to commit to this one, and Chris can commit to this one. Writing 100.3, this is Alex. And Sebastian edited that one, so he claimed that one already. 100.1, this would be Harsha was the editor here. And Harsha, you've already had some successful transactions, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. 101.2, this is Alex. Rewriting, this was, oh, this, we changed the order of these. So this was now Nelson with the PluTS one and Newman with the edit. And then Alex wrote the new version of the Helios lesson here. And I think Newman gave final edits to this one. So yeah, these are the remaining tasks. And then once people have a chance to go in and make some commitments to these, I can add the lesson 102 projects. So we're still kind of rolling with this contributor resource. A little bit behind where we are on the publishing timeline, but we'll catch up with this one. One of the features that needs to be built and is not yet built is the ability to make multiple contributions or commitments, okay? Because like if it's a backlog, it's kind of annoying to have to go through this process. But in the long run, our goal is not to need that option, because this will be right on time. You'll be able to make a commitment to a thing as you're doing it. When it's complete, the reviewer will distribute that task, and then you'll be able to commit to the next one. So it's really only in this catching up phase where it would be really helpful to be able to commit to many things at once. So just keep that in mind as you kind of go through this process of commitment and distribution. There's currently 7,400 ADA in this treasury and a little less than 5,000 gimbals. And as the Fund 11 milestones continue to be distributed, there's pools of funds at each milestone that will continue to add to this treasury and start to use those. So who has questions about the current state of things here? I see Harsha and then Jonah.
So if I commit to something that I haven't edited, would the system know that this person didn't actually work on it, or is this manual?
Oh, I love that question so much. Okay, so we, in this case, are the system. We are the Oracle, right? So it's up to whoever holds a reviewer token to know that that work is complete when they release the rewards, okay? This, of course, raises the next question, which is, okay, well, who's a reviewer? That's one of the governance questions that's going to be really exciting to answer over these next few months. And I don't have a formal proposal for this yet. I need to catch up on a few other things first. But I think that's a question that will be really exciting to try to have a good answer to by say September. Jonah, what do you think?
That's really well. First, I want to ask: is this particular part on mainnet, or is this also on testnet?
This is on mainnet. Yeah, this is real Catalyst ADA right here, and real mainnet Gimbals.
That is awesome. And the other thing I think I felt this way last time as well when I was here, is that, you know, this is the way you're building this kind of like open contribution platform where people are collaborating on building something, is something what the Intersect Working Group GovTools is trying to build as well. And I see that you have everything in practice, which is really, really amazing. I just would, again, ask if you would want to join that working group, just to see if you could bring some of this kind of, you have pragmatic, you know, systems in place already that we're trying to build. And I think your insights would be helpful. This is very cool.
Yeah, it would be great to get involved in that. And as some of you know, Gimbalabs already has one grant from Intersect. The purpose of the grant is to keep providing Dandelion as a free community service and to upgrade it for the Conway era. So Roberto Morano and I have been working on that together. And the way we're going to report out on the results of using that grant is by creating another prototype instance of this little application right here. So he and I planned out a budget and a timeline. The budget includes both server costs, right, for just continuing to run Dandelion on mainnet, pre-prod, preview, and SanchoNet reliably, plus a stipend for Roberto's time, just doing the DevOps of keeping Dandelion alive, and a smaller stipend for my time just kind of interacting with Intersect and reporting back, which is one of the things on my personal backlog. But even those two, that budget so far will still leave a substantial amount of ADA for documenting and sharing with the world what Dandelion provides. And so as soon as that Treasury instance is up, two things will be able to happen. One, I'll be able to bring it right here to this open space and see if anybody wants to help with communicating about Dandelion, right? Whether it's by writing docs, maybe building a Dandelion PBL course, or our imagination is the only limit. We can think about other ways to share Dandelion with people who need it. And then the other thing that'll happen is we'll be able to include in our report back to Intersect how this little demo application works and to start getting feedback on how people might want to use it more generally over there. So I think that'll be a really nice opportunity.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, Alex. Oh, thanks.
Sorry, sorry, I have one question, Alex, before you do that. Is this shareable, this, like the screenshot? If I screenshotted this, could I share it with them, or you want to keep this
That's
in-house
totally
still?
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
It won't be a usable demo because people won't have these tokens yet. And for now, as we move towards a production release, the getting these tokens just relies on individual interactions, right? For the long term, that's not scalable. But for
Right.
this early testing on mainnet, right? We know the contracts work. they're tested sufficiently to be confident about having this on mainnet with some real ADA in it. But what we haven't tested are the human and organizational sides of this. And that's what we intend to do in this space at Gimbalabs, right? We're doing the kind of the really important research and development of seeing, well, how do we actually use this together? Alex.
Just I tested the link and it doesn't work on mobile. So I sent you another address.
Okay. And so you sent me an address that you'll be able to access from
On
a
the
browser.
Yeah.
Thank you. One of the really cool things about this is that when you want to contribute to a task by committing to it, you'll only be able to receive rewards for that to the address to which your contributor token was originally minted. The address associated with your token can be changed, but there's not yet a contributor facing UI to do that. Okay, so while we don't quite have that UI yet, for now there will be a little message here. So if you have a contributor token, but you try to see the dashboard after sending the token to a different wallet, you'll see a message here that says, whoops, you can't make a commitment. That I learned that the hard way after somebody snuck through. But we were able to change that because the contracts do have an endpoint for updating that. But it'd be better to have UI that prevents it from happening in the first place. So now we have that.
That's very cool, James. Can you tell me about the sneak through, if you don't mind? What happened there?
Yeah. Do you guys want to, I mean, this is open spaces, so we can do whatever we want. Do you guys just want to see a little bit about the source code of this guy?
Totally.
Yeah, let's look at that. I think the easiest, let me show you this over here.
And as you're pulling that up, just so I understand what you said, so you have both the NFT and the initial accepting or minting wallet of the NFT have to be paired to get your contributions. That's very,
Correct.
very cool. That's nice.
Alex.
But what is the specific reason why not have just pubkey hash for the wallet?
You know what it is just, I think, oh no, it's an address. And so on chain and as a Plutus data type, an address consists of a pub key hash and maybe a staking key hash. And I'm using the word maybe the exact way that Haskell uses it, right? So that's it. The disadvantage of using only a pub key hash is that if somebody is using a wallet with multiple accounts, that can lead to some confusing edge cases. And we have a lot of advantages in terms of reliable validation if we use the whole address represented on chain.
Partially why I asked this question about the marrying of the NFT to the minting wallet is this is one of the design patterns I wanted to do for my project, because I was thinking about making my NFTs with 100% royalty, because I don't really want them traded. I want people to mint them again individually. Like I'll make them cheap enough to mint that is, I don't really want it as like an asset that people will sell over and over. But I wanted to somehow capture and reward folks later on down the line via their wallet address. So I think that's cool how you were able to. Are you doing that? You're sort of, I just want to see how you do that actually. If you could explain it in ELI like I'm 5, that would be cool.
Oh, you know it. Well, I can't promise to go straight to the 5-year-old level, but let's try to read this validator just a little bit, okay? And let's see how far this takes us. And what we want to look at two validators, and we're not going to read these entire things, but we can take a little look. All right, so after a commitment is made, there's three things that can happen. That commitment can be denied by a reviewer. Right? Well, nope, you did not complete that project. You did not complete that commitment as expected. It can be distributed, which is like the yes, success, you did complete it as accepted. Or the user can unlock it. In other words, the person who made the commitment can say, actually, I don't want to make that commitment anymore. Okay. In all cases, when a commitment is made, the contributor token that is in the contributor's wallet is locked at what we call an escrow validator. So not only are rewards locked, which is nice because they can be guaranteed, right? Compare this to a bounty system where you might see a list of bounties on a public bounty board, and then you might race the clock to be the first one to complete a bounty. And then you submit your work and you hope that you were the first one and you are the one that gets rewards. There's a low level of assurance for contributors and a high vulnerability to having worked for nothing. In this case, at the moment a commitment is made, the rewards are locked up. And those could only be for the person who made the commitment. At the same time, the contributor token is locked up, which means that while the contributor is working on this commitment, they're unable to commit to anything else. You can't commit to three things at once, one thing at a time, which is, as a lot of people know, that's the magic recipe. Anybody who's able to focus on one thing at a time typically gets a lot of things done. It's just that they're done in a serialized way. And so we're really trying to encourage that within each circle.
Can you show me how you locked a second contribution?
Well, so that's a transaction. Okay.
Okay.
So the
You just can't.
locking is the transaction that fires when somebody clicks that commitment TX button. And it's actually a pretty complicated transaction because it's pulling two UTXOs from a validator that holds project funds and a list of approved projects. It's also referencing that the contributor has a valid contribution token, and then it's locking it all at the escrow address whose validator is right here. Okay. And we're going to be releasing documentation about how all of this works as we continue to roll it out. Okay, but for now, this is the unlocking step. And what I wanted you to see here is that in the case of, in all of these cases, there's some kind of check to address. This one has check token to address, and this one has the same function, which is defined down here, right? And so this is checking that the output is going to some contributor address. But where is that contributor address defined in the first place? Right? We can see it being referenced right here or right here. Right? And notice in distribute, we're not just checking the token to address, we're actually checking the entire value paid to the address, because this distribute endpoint should only work if the contributor is getting all of the rewards that are due to them. Okay. But in all cases, we're checking this contributor address. Now, if I search for this in my VS Code, whoops, just the contributor address part. If I search for this in the window, I can see, okay, contributor address, yeah, that's right here. And it's right here, of course, and then it's one more time. It's used down below. But shoot, where is it? Where is it defined? You see these spreads right here? Project details has brackets and the dot dot, escrow params, brackets and the dot dot. This shows us that project details is actually destructuring all of the subfields of this record, okay? And one of those fields is the contributor address. In other words, when a commitment is made, datum is created to accompany that commitment that holds a bunch of project details, one of which is the contributor's address. Now, there's something else happening here too. In, for example, this one, okay, check value to owner, right? We're validating that the correct address is being used. So as a matter of fact, there's no endpoint here that allows us to do anything other than send tokens back to the contributor address that's expected on chain. The question so far. Yeah, Jonah, what do you think?
So that little magic that's happening between the brackets, the three dots, is that on chain or off chain?
This is in our Plutus TX code, right? In this Haskell file.
Okay.
But it's just we're writing business logic here so that it's really these, right? Yeah, this whole validator is serialized and put on chain. So it's all represented somehow on chain. And this is the logic that's in that byte string.
The logic is running on your database somewhere, is that right?
No, this is all on chain logic.
Okay.
Yeah, this and the application we were just looking at, the Gimbalabs prototype, does not rely on any additional database. It's just a Next.js project and the Cardano blockchain.
Cool.
So the reason I opened this up is where's the back door? Well, in the validator for the contributor token, we can see that there's also, once again, 3 endpoints. There's nothing special about 3 endpoints. It's just that each of these validators happens to have 3 endpoints, okay? With the contributor token, what are they? Well, somebody can add a completed task, which is just an integer, right? We're not placing in datum any list of which tasks were completed because the blockchain provides a record of that. And with a clever query, we can find all of that information. All we're doing here is counting how many tasks have you completed as an integer. More on this in just a moment. Another thing can happen is that the data, some line of arbitrary data associated with a contributor can be changed, can be updated. We'll come back to this one in just a moment as well. And then finally, somebody is able to manage the contributor. And that's what I want to look at for just a moment right here. Who is able to do each of these 3 things? Okay. In this case, add completed task can only happen if the updater contract token with a certain updater address is part of the transaction. And without going too deep into this, this is a wonderful magic trick right here. Essentially, what we've achieved right here is that the number of tasks completed can only be incremented if there's a successful interaction with this escrow validator that we were just looking at. Okay, so this updater address is actually referring to this escrow validator. Only if this logic, this in particular, this distribute part, only if this distribute logic is valid, are we able to increment the number of completed tasks. On the other hand, to update some arbitrary data about the contributor, who can do that? Well, this can only be done by the contributor themselves, okay? And what can they change? They can change their reward address, right? That's the address of ideally the wallet that their contributor token is in, or they can change what's called contributor info, which is just an arbitrary string of text. This is here for experimental reasons. We're not sure if and how people are going to use this, but we have some ideas and we'll continue to roll that out. And let me pause for Steve.
There are so many tokens in this script that I'm kind of surprised. I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding what I'm seeing, but you know, like, there's really that many tokens involved in this series of contracts? I mean, because it looks like there's like 3 or 4, right? Or is it just
There's a contributor token that's held in the contributor's wallet, right? Every contributor is going to need a token. There's the contributor reference token that's held at a validator address that's derived from this validator that we're looking at right here. That's the 100 token suggested in SIP 68. And we're not using this for the exact reason that SIP 68 was initially written for, which is updating the NFT data. But we're just using this as a pattern that helps us think about, okay, how can we make a connection between one token in a user's wallet and another one that has some data attached. So you need both of those. And then, then you need a reviewer to have some way of identifying themselves. So that's the 3 essential tokens.
And it's only the user's data token. Sorry, Steve, that is the SIP 68, right? The other ones are just standard.
SIP 68 really refers to token pairs, right?
Right.
So the contributor has what to an end user we could call a SIP 68 token.
Right.
But that token relies on a pair having been minted together with one token in the wallet and the other at this validator address.
Right. And that's the only token that requires that. The other ones don't, right? Or you're not utilizing that design pattern.
Great. That's the best way to say it, right? The reviewer, there's a million great reasons actually to turn the reviewer token into a SIP 68 style pair, because there might be some data that we want to track about reviewers. But we just haven't implemented that yet. We want to do a little research around what, if any, data would we want to track there.
That's really great. Yeah, awesome.
And keep in mind, right, a lot of a reviewer's track record is already going to be on chain in the form of which commitments did they approve. So even if we have certain questions that can be answered with any form of data, a lot of that data might already exist, and we might not need to add anything to a token pair, right? And this for me is one of the most important frontiers of this work. Imagine if Catalyst reviewers had a track record that emerged from their ability to review projects that were actually going to be successful, right? Or to approve milestones that actually lead to long-term impact. That's not a data point that you can create overnight, but it is an incredible one to maybe be able to look at over a longer period of time, right? If this reviewer gives a good review, what's that worth? Oh, wow. They have an incredible track record of giving great reviews to projects that went on to do amazing things. that would be a really nice thing to know. I might give that reviewer's next review a little bit more attention than I would of somebody who is brand new. And that raises a whole new set of questions. But I think that's exactly what we have the chance to explore here. And so we'll be creating data like that right here at Gimbalabs, right? At a very small scale, beginning to test it. What do you
Okay,
think?
but so the reason I asked was, I mean, like these are real tokens, right? These are native assets, right? Which means they have ADA blocking, ensuring their existence, right? And this is just Gimbalabs school. This is just the Andamio school, and for everybody, there's that many tokens locking up ADA. And this is the shit that I don't think is communicated at all. I mean, it's not communicated at all. Is that all the stuff that goes into making a system of smart contracts actually function requires ADA, to be locked up basically forever, and like, I think just taking that, if figuring out a way to communicate that is happening everywhere, all around us, and it hasn't even started yet, like really kind of emphasizes why you don't want to fucking spend your ADA for coffee. I'm sorry, it's just where I go with this stuff. I mean, there's all the cool stuff, like what you were just describing about what could happen for Catalyst reviewers, over the long haul, in terms of like, knowing, having levels of assurance that people are who they say they are, they do what they say they do, and quality is there, knowing that the quality is there through this function, it's a huge deal.
Any development team building something real, and the Andamio team is just one example, has a pretty advanced understanding of what ADA actually is. And it's aligned, Steve, with what you just said. Yeah, it's not money, it's a utility. And this is also why additional chains are going to be so important. And that's why, for example, the Andamio team has a Catalyst proposal about what we're calling partner chains. You could call them a side chain and it would mean pretty much the same thing, but there's some subtle differences there that we want to explore. A side chain, partner chain, whatever you call it, the moment that it feels like, wow, okay, this is a very expensive system to run, right? Now you can look at, okay, well, what must go on mainnet and be associated with those mainnet tokens, and what might be placed over on this partner chain to make sure that the system works exactly as expected, right? On any Cardano blockchain we spin up, whether it's mainnet, preprod, preview, Sancho net, Andamio sidechain or partner chain or any other network, all of this validation logic works exactly the same way. Okay? You write the validation logic once, you spin up an additional Cardano network, it works there too. Right? Or if you're into Hydra, in a Hydra head, right? That's a really big deal. We don't need to ever write this again. And now we can go to the part of playing with, okay, on which network is it most helpful to be able to run this validation code? Jonah, what do you think?
Yeah, I would like to respond. One of the things Steve's comment that I'd like to respond on is every time ADA is locked, remember, it makes the ADA that you have unlocked more valuable. So in that sense, it's like it does help increase, like we have that 45 billion cap, and every time ADA is lost or locked in somewhere, that makes everybody else's ADA more valuable. That's kind of one of the Bitcoin ethos that people follow on Bitcoin that way. So it's not necessarily a net negative if you're a holder, but yes, it does become expensive. The thing I wanted to say about this design pattern is that social capital is going with anon environment that we live in blockchain, especially with DREPs coming online in the future, having ways to track social capital. This is what I kind of think, the way I could have interpreted the way you will have the ability to track contributors, whether they've done a good job or bad job, is going to be really important moving forward for us, because we need to find a way to not necessarily require our DREPs to register necessarily. If they don't want to, they can stay anon, but still have a way to understand their character through some sort of on-chain data. And it seems like this design pattern is really like dialing into that really perfectly.
Thanks. I think so too. And this is where the naming of the token gets really important. If you want to stay anonymous in some way, right? Choosing an alias that's just a string of gibberish is probably the right choice. But that's only part of it, right? That will ensure that you as a contributor can't be directly associated with this person, but then other connections become important. So one example, as we've been looking at this from a learning perspective, building on Damio, is we're looking at how much can we ensure that any data that goes in a database is one concern that's independent from what goes on chain, and not connect those two, right? While still giving people a user experience in an application front end where it's cohesive, right? To the end user, it feels like those two things might as well be, but under the hood, you can see that there is not that association. It's a really interesting design problem. And it leads to where I think a lot of the next breakthroughs are coming from, right? We are really knocking on the door of identity not being just some place we want to get to, but kind of forcing the issue of saying, yeah, what identity do you see of this person on chain, and how can that be both proven and protected effectively at the same time? So
Because
those
I
are
was
all
also,
questions ahead of us. Yeah.
yeah, because I was abstracting away mentally my, like everybody has, I mean, I had this concept of a DREP as a human individual who's going to be there making decisions. But if you abstract it away, a DREP is just like a signing key, right? And right, because that's all they're going to do is vote with a sign, with the transaction. So, really doesn't even have to be a human element there. So having some way like you have here to sort of tie a signing key to some sort of history of actions is going to be really important.
Right.
Yeah, so this is really interesting because there's this video of Charles talking about a Cardano making their own custom-made AI. Like it could just be, it doesn't even have to be at all associated with a human if that shit starts happening. Which may be good or may be bad. It's one of those things. It's either heaven or hell.
A contributor could be a multi-sig, a reviewer could be a multi-sig, right? And all of those open up many options. We were just looking in the UI at, in this case, each project or task is just writing or editing a single lesson. It's reasonable for one person to be responsible for that. But what if the project was build a course, and we wanted to wrap up all of those individual lesson contributions into some superstructure that was, okay, well, here's the budget to build a whole course. Now you can imagine how that might need to be administered by a multi-sig contributor who can then subdivide those funds down to the point where individuals can take and share their parts, right? The same thing applies to reviewers. We might not just want to rely on an individual token holder to say that this commitment is complete. We might want, M of N reviewers to approve. And so working on all of that. Just to close this loop, this is the back door right here, that just in case somebody does make a commitment from an address that's not the one associated with their token, someone, an admin, there they are, the admin token, an admin has the ability to update the reward address associated with that contributor. Okay. They cannot, in this transaction, just change the number of completed tasks. They can't change the contributor's info, but they can troubleshoot and fix an address when it's necessary. And these are all the little details, right, that really come in handy. So that's there. The reason we looked at that was just to think about an answer to that question, right? Like, how
Appreciate
is
it.
this being governed? Yeah, you bet. And we'll keep rolling that out. We're working on first the course view of Andamio, and people have a chance to practice playing with that as they build PPBL 2024. The on-chain parts of that will start to roll out over the next few weeks. And then by Q3, we will really be rolling out the contribution part integrated with that. But the research and development is happening right here, right now, about how we use it. So
gonna
two
have-
of my, okay.
I'm gonna have Lorenzo watch the recording of this video.
And what's he working on?
He's the GovTools. He's kind of the intersect lead for the GovTools group.
Cool. Cool. He's welcome to stop by anytime. I would like to have time to attend more intersect meetings, but it's just like we were talking about at the top of this meeting, right? Nobody has time to do everything. And so as people start to collaborate, they can find their ikigai, they can find the ways they can best contribute. And what that means is that people who are building can maintain time to keep building. And other people who don't want to write code can help take care of those other things. And one thing I've mentioned to a lot of you here over time, if you've never read it, make sure to look up Paul Graham's blog post from 10 or 15 years ago, where he talks about maker time versus manager time. Maker time versus manager time. You can just Google it, Paul Graham. It's a really helpful blog post. I read it once a year just to remember that it's important to say no. And so if I ever say no to an intersect meeting, it's not because I don't want to be there. It's just that I recognize how deeply a 1 hour meeting can spoil a whole day of development. All right. And so when I'm really trying to protect time to make sure that what needs to get built gets built, that means sometimes staying away from meetings. Of course, we have this open space every week, so happy to share it with anybody who needs it. I know we're over time already, so thanks for sticking around. Should we do a quick checkout round? Adrian, Nelson, how did it go in the breakout?
Yeah, it was a bit frustrating, I guess. We haven't accomplished what we wanted to accomplish.
Sounds like a regular day in Cardano development. Thanks for taking a look. Nelson, how about you?
I've gotten a little bit more understanding of the whole thing, but yeah, the end result that I wanted wasn't the solution to that wasn't available yet. Looking around.
So, that's quite a cliffhanger. I can't wait to hear more. Daniel, how are you leaving us today? That's okay. Ken, you want to do a quick checkout?
Yeah, it was a good conversation. There were a lot of good little bits and pieces to think about.
And Harsha.
Pretty good actually. So I feel like I understand the contributor platform a lot better now. And yesterday, I understood EUTX was a lot better. So I think that's progress.
Here. Sebastian.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Great session. Really nice. Nice session. Thanks a lot.
And Steve.
All good, man. Always interesting. For 4 years, you've remained an interesting person. It's crazy.
Oh boy. And Jonah.
Yeah, I just find these spaces so inspiring. I mean, I'm just every time last week's only my second one, but I just find the conversations incredible. I really find the way that you provide information is extremely easy to understand, James. So I really appreciate that. And I think it's inspiring and exciting. It gets me excited to get my hands in the ecosystem more. So I appreciate it.
Rock and roll. Love hearing that. Yeah, appreciate y'all's time. It's so fun when we have one agenda on the Miro board and then something else happens with the first thing. Hope this was a okay use of time for everybody. And if anybody's watching this video, we do Gimbalabs Open Spaces on Thursdays at 14:30 UTC. You can find the Zoom registration link for this meeting at gimbalabs.com/calendar. On the calendar, there's a variety of other meetings. We look at Go programming on Mondays, Mesh development, which is a JavaScript library for building Cardano apps, on Tuesdays. And our Plutus PBL course has an open meeting on Wednesdays at 14:30 UTC. So if you're looking for a chance to learn together, this is one space where it happens, and we'll look forward to meeting you. We'll go offline now, and I have one more thing for everybody just after the recording.